let's talk about SEO and its importance in your blog. And specifically, I am going to give you 6 WordPress SEO plugins that I recommend you consider for your blog. And stick to the end because I'm going to give you the 3 that I specifically recommend. So it's important to recognize that WordPress is not designed right out of the box to do well with SEO. But here's the thing. SEO is probably going to drive 90%, 95% of your traffic over time. Now, some people say, well, I'm got nowhere close to that from everything comes from my social posts about my blog posts. Well, that's because you're probably not doing your SEO right. You start doing your SEO right, what you're going to find is your posts are going to get into the search engines and send you traffic over and over and over again for years on evergreen topics. So if you're not actively using SEO, you should be. So here are the functions that you need to do that WordPress doesn't do right out of the box, all right? At least in its current versions. All right, first one, you need to SEO your content. So you need to choose the right content to write about. You need to choose the right words to use in that. There's a whole bunch of choices that you need to make. In addition to that, you need to do things like use schema markup to tell the search engines what it is and how to feature it. You need to have technical SEO so that your pages are designed correctly. There's a whole bunch of SEO things that you need to do that I bet you're not in the least bit interested in doing. Well, this is the reason why we get SEO plugins, because they do a lot of that stuff for us automatically so that we don't have to figure out how to do it and figure out what to do and all those kinds of things like that. That's why you need some SEO plugins. Next thing, WordPress is not designed out of the box to have rapid loading of your pages. And we all know that rapid loading of your pages is very important, not only for the consumer experience, but also to get ranked well in the search engines, because they tend to give advantage to those pages that do load rapidly. Well, the challenge has always been in the past is that anytime you start looking at the recommendations that are given you on how to speed up your site, you look at it and you go, I have no idea what they just told me to do, much less how to do it. Well, there are a number of tools that are specifically designed to fix that problem in WordPress now. I'm going to show you 2 of them today. Next, you need to optimize your images. So most images are loaded far too large. And so if you cut down that file size by maybe 70%, that means it's going to load 70% faster, speeding up your site, getting you higher in the search engines, giving the user a better user experience. Next one is what we call lazy loading videos. So videos come, let's say you put a YouTube video in a blog post. It comes with all this JavaScript. It comes with all this formatting. It comes with the whole video loading in there. By the time you're done with that, it's way slowed down the load speed for that particular page. There is a way to do it. I'll show you that in just a moment, how that works. And then you also need to have the ability to redirect pages. So here I've got this page. I've set it up. It's great. And then later on, I think I should change that URL. So you change it. If you don't tell Google that that page has changed, what happens, they send their spider to that page. It's no longer there. It's giving you a 404 error or another kind of error. And so they say, this page is gone. Well, there's a concept called redirects where you say, hey, that page that used to be here, it's here now. That's what a redirect does. And doing it without a redirection plugin is somewhat difficult, somewhat technical. So there are plugins that are specifically designed to just say, the page that was here should be here. Here's what the code is that you should deliver. All right. And then I encourage you to stick around to the end. As I told you, I'm going to give you 3 specific ones that I recommend you use. Why am I giving you 6 to consider? Because not all of them will work with every single website. And not all of them are right for your specific website. Because what you're going to find as you start working with this is that you may have specific needs on your site that other sites don't necessarily have. So let's start with the SEO plugins. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to recommend two separate options for you. And I'm going to tell you which one I like the best. All right. But they're both good. If you really love one and hate the other one, that's fine. You can do that. All right. My personal favorite is called Rank Math. I put the URL down here, doncrowther.com/get-rank-math. You're going to see a pattern here. It'll say get and then the name of the plugin. Why am I doing this? Well, first off, I'll give you a warning. Some of these are affiliate links. I would recommend them even if they weren't. Some of them aren't, but I'd still keep that same pattern because it enables me to change the URL. Once you put something in a video, it's going to be there forever. And so I'm giving you redirects here, doncrowther.com/something, so that I can point it to the right place if it ever moves from where it used to be. All right. So let me tell you about Rank Math SEO Pro. So you're definitely going to want to get the paid version of this. We'll talk more about paid versus free in a little bit. You'll want to get the paid version because it adds so much more functionality. Basically, what it's doing here is it's giving you a whole bunch of SEO data that will help you to be able to rank higher in the search engines. It accesses a thing called the Search Console, which is something that you definitely need to be using. It's free. It's offered by Google. It tells you a lot about your searches, and someday I'll do a video about that, tell you a little bit more about the Search Console, what it is, how it works, how to set it up. It's fairly simple. You just have to set it up once. Then there's this thing called Schema. What Schema is it's a way of telling the search engines, here's the kind of information that's on this page, and here's where that information lives. So for example, if you publish a recipe, you'll want to publish that with what's called the recipe schema, which tells it, okay, here's the name, here's the description, here's the ingredients, and what this program does, Rank Math SEO Pro, is it automatically, first off, detects, but more importantly, when you choose one of them, it automatically takes the data that you got and puts it into that schema so that you can rank higher because you're using that schema. What Google does is it gives extra credit to those sites that give the schema data appropriately for their particular site because it's easier for them to process and get that information. All right, so schema is a good thing. You'll want to use it. It also will help you with local SEO. So if you are a chiropractor in Cleveland, obviously you're not going to compete. You don't want to show up on New York City's chiropractor list because no one's going to go from New York City to Cleveland to work with you. And so there's this concept of local SEO helping you get ranked in your local market. There's also this concept called the knowledge graph. I won't explain it. This program just takes care of that for you. All right, what else? It does image SEO, so it compresses your images down. We'll talk more about that in a moment. It does an XML site map, which basically tells the search engines, here's all the pages on my site. So you just go down this list and you index all of these. It helps you get all of your pages listed in the search engines. It is astounding to me, as a person who runs an SEO agency, the number of people who I go to their site and it's like, hey, half your pages aren't indexed. This is good content, but it's not in the search engines. We fix that. One of the ways we fix that is by creating a sitemap. It also has some AI writing aids. It's, at least at this point, it's not like writing it for you. I would not recommend you use it if it did write it for you, because we're doing this for SEO and we don't want to get punished for having AI content in it. But it does do things like tell you, here are some of the things you may want to use as headers. Here's some of the concepts that are related to this you may want to write about. It helps you outline. It helps you do all kinds of things in terms of that. It's very valuable in that. It gives you stats. how much traffic is coming to this specific page from the search engines, as well as a ranking tracker. So you can say, I want to see how I'm ranking for these different keywords, and it'll automatically tell you within the program, so you've got that information anytime that you need it. It has a hookup with Google News. So if you're publishing a site that has actual news value, you might get included into Google's news feed. It has a video sitemap, which helps if you have a lot of videos. Your videos can get ranked higher by doing what's called a video sitemap. I realize some of the stuff I just told you about may seem totally overwhelming. I understand that. That's why we use this program, is because it's not overwhelming when you go into this program. You spend a few minutes setting it up. It's got certain defaults, the default to the quote best way to do it. And you just do that, and it takes care of so much of that so that you don't have to figure it out. And more importantly, so you don't have to figure out how to do it. Rank Math SEO Pro. That's the one that I really like. Now, there is another competitor to that. You've heard of it. It's called Yoast SEO for WordPress. Okay, so here's the thing about Yoast. It is it's the best seller by far. 13 million users use it. So you can't go wrong with 13 million users. However, here's the thing. Rank Math was created because Yoast SEO has holes. And they're trying to improve on that. That's the reason I like Rank Math over Yoast. But Yoast is not bad at all. You'll definitely want to use the paid version of it. It helps you create SEO-friendly content. It helps you with internal linking. It helps you with the structured data, the schema I told you about already. It integrates with a bunch of different tools, and you get premium support if you pay for that. So if you notice, the list of things that is provided by Rank Math is considerably longer than the list of things that was provided by Yoast. Let me just demonstrate this to you. Of course, this is Rank Math's data. And anytime someone puts together a comparison table that says, here's this, here's this, here's this, who's it going to favor? Well, it's going to favor Rank Math in this case. But just look at this. Look at all the green checks versus the red X's. There are just so many things that Rank Math does that Yoast does not do. That's one of the main reasons why I am using it myself and recommending it to others that they use that. And by the way, this is the first page of like 5 pages of that table that I could show you. All right. So Rank Math, Yoast. I prefer Rank Math. Okay. Next, page speed improvement. I'm going to show you 2 options again, and I'm going to show you which one is my favorite again. Okay, so why do I show you 2 options? Why don't I just tell you the right one? Well, again, you might have something going on in your site. You may have things that are important to you that aren't in one versus the other. That's the reason I wanted to show you 2 stellar programs that both do a great job here that you should consider. All right. Why is page speed improvement so important? It's important for the consumer. One of the things that we find, especially when we advertise, is that if we pay for advertising to, let's say, a landing page that takes 5 seconds to load, a lot of the people who you paid for to come to that page leave before the page ever finishes loading, because they can go someplace that'll load it in 1 second. Yours is taking 5 seconds, man, they're done, especially if they're on a cell phone. And so it's very important for a user experience. And for that reason, Google especially is favoring pages that have a faster page load speed. And so you want your whole site to show up. There's tools that'll enable you to figure this out, how fast it's going and those things. And the challenge is those tools give you a list of incredibly technical language that even I who have some kind of technical background, I'm not a whole programmer or anything else like that. I look at that and I go, I have no idea what to do. I have no idea how to do it. So bam, I'm gone. And so my site just stays slow. And so I've been waiting for years for someone to come in and do those things that have needed to be done specifically for WordPress. Guess what? People are starting to do it. So one of those is called WP Rocket. What WP Rocket does is it it speeds up your page in a lot of different ways. Again, you'll definitely want the paid version. Basically what this does is it covers a range of speed improvement factors and does much of that work for you. So if you just accept the defaults in WP Rocket, you'll have much of the page speed improvement just naturally, automatically happen for your particular site. So in addition to that, you get page and resource caching. So what caching means? All right, if your site is located in Cleveland, I don't know why I'm picking on Cleveland today. Your site is located on a server in Cleveland. Somebody in Tokyo wants to access your page. They have to send the request, it has to go through all the different places on the internet, arrive in Cleveland, get it, go back and load all those, and it just takes time. What caching does is it takes your site and puts it on 300 different servers all around the world. And so for someone in Tokyo, there is a cache right in Tokyo. There's one in New York City. There's one in San Francisco. There's one in Omaha. There in a bunch of different places that are geographically closer to the location that somebody is loading the page. And in spite of the fact that we're talking electrons here and electrons move really fast, data over electrons don't always move quite as fast. And so there is actually a speed improvement when it's coming from a computer that is geographically closer to where you live. That's what caching is. That's what caching does. It's a really good thing to have working in your favor. And I strongly recommend you use page and resource caching. WP Rocket does that automatically. They give you access to CDN, which is these networks that have these 300 different computers around it, and it just does the job for you. It does image optimization, including WebP, which is really cool because WebP loads so much faster. It does this thing called reducing latency, which is, tell you what, I put it on the slide intending to explain it to you. I'm not going to. It's a good thing to reduce latency. You're going to want to do it. And it has this thing called automatic switchover, which is if your main web server is down and it's in Cleveland and maybe somebody would naturally go to Cleveland to get it, it'll say, that server's down. Let's send them to Omaha. And you'll get your data from Omaha because Cleveland is down. And so it's really nice in that process. All right. There is a new player in the market called Rabbit Loader. So Rabbit Loader, my jury is still out on this. It's got some really interesting things they're doing. In many cases, they're able to get sites to load entirely within 1 second, which is like unheard of for WordPress sites. And so it is, as I said, a new player. You definitely will want the paid version of it. It focuses entirely on reducing load time. And again, it does much of the work for you. You've got page caching. You've got what's called gzip compression, where it takes everything that you got, puts it into what's called a zip file, a gzip file. And then when it gets to your computer goes whoop, and it blows it back out. So it compresses it and then it blows it back out, which is really good. Trust me, these things are all good. It does this thing called delaying JavaScript, where oftentimes you have code that gets run on your page that you don't even realize is running on your page, and it delays that, it waits. So one of the great examples of this is every plugin you put on your WordPress site, almost every one of them is going to run some piece of JavaScript, even if it's deactivated. And so one of the things delayed JavaScript does is it waits to run all that JavaScript until the page is loaded, and so the human being can see it, and then it runs all that stuff in the background. So much of that you don't even need running, but the way WordPress is designed, which is a faulty design in my opinion, it puts it all in there even if that is deactivated. Again, it's a good thing. It removes unused CSS. So CSS is how your typefaces look, what your colors are, what the color is of the background for your button, all that kind of stuff like that. You can get It's very easy in WordPress, as well as any HTML program, to get a whole bunch of extra CSS in your program, which takes time to load. And sometimes they compete with each other. Basically what it does is it takes anything in CSS that's not being used and it doesn't even give it to the computer. And so you don't have that problem. And you have this thing called lazy load that I have described and will describe again in a moment. And it does this thing called database cleanup, because oftentimes when you reduce spam comments or something like that, you create a problem for yourself, and this database cleanup just solves that problem for you. All right. Again, highly technical, lots of stuff here. Personally, I recommend WP Rocket. The Rabbit Loader is interesting, and I suggest you test it just to see whether it does better for you than WP Rocket. This is the only one where I'm going to tell you there may be worth testing both of them. Okay. Not at the same time. Do one, test it. Do the other, test it, see which one you like better. Okay. All right. Next function is called image optimization. So here's one of the things that oftentimes happens. People take a picture on their cell phone. They take that picture and they put it up on their website. Here's the problem. A cell phone takes those pictures huge. The file structure is huge. There's all kinds of dots in there that don't need to be there for this picture that you're putting on your website. So let's take you say you take a selfie of yourself and you put that up on your website, and it's going to be this big. But the picture that came from your cell phone is this big. It's giant. It doesn't need to be that giant. It needs to be this big. And so what an image optimization program does is that first off, it makes it that big. The second thing it does is all these programs put a whole bunch of additional information in it that you don't need in most cases. It strips out all that extra information. That's what's happening. And so it's compressing your image way down. There's two types. There's lossy, there's lossless. Don't worry about that, because I'm going to recommend to you that you use this program called Imagify. And what Imagify does is that it automatically just figures that out for you. And it looks at the image, it figures out what to do, and it gives you a great image. Basically, what it enables you to do is when you start off, when you first load it, you can optimize all your images with one click. In your entire site, you click it, it goes and optimizes it all. All of them are like 70% smaller than they were in file size. And remember, every time, if you're going to load 10,000, let's just say 10,000 byte image versus a 1,000 byte image, is going to take, guess what? 10 times as long to load it. And so anytime we can cut that down, if we can cut it from 10,000 to 700, we're going to have a much faster loading image and a much faster loading site. And so it optimizes all your images one click. It resizes your images on the fly. So anytime you put in a new image, it's going to optimize it as you go along. And it allows you to restore your media to the original versions when you need to. This is really important, because remember that picture we took on our cell phone that was going to be this big? Well, someday you may want to use it this big. And so what happens with many of these programs is they only store it this big. Well, now when I want to show it this big, I've got this many dots, and I don't have enough dots to do it this way. All right, we can solve that. Imagify automatically saves a version of the old one, and so that you can restore your media back to that when you need it. And images are automatically optimized in the selected compression level. Again, technical language, it just does a good job of compressing the image to the size and place where you need it. And in most cases, here's the thing. I've worked at it. It's like, in most cases, I can't tell the difference between a 10,000 size and a 700 size. And if you can't tell the difference, you don't need to load the difference. We're not going to be Puritans here. We're not going to be saying, oh, I need every image to be as beautiful as possibly can. Well, guess what? If you can't tell the difference with your naked eye, it doesn't need to be bigger. Okay? And by the way, This one is created by the people who created WP Rocket. And as you go to the doncrowther.com/getimagify, what you'll find is there's one page on there where they show, here's what happened. Here's the base case. Here's the page load time for this page. And then here it is with just Imagify, but here it is with Imagify and WP Rocket. And what happens is you see it get faster with each one of those. And so it's specifically designed to work well with WP Rocket. It'll work well with any program, but it works best with WP Rocket. And I recommend you put those things into a combination of the two. Okay. All right. That's the third function. Fourth function is what we call lazy load videos. Okay. Lazy load videos. As I told you, when you have like a YouTube video embedded on your page, which I recommend you do with most blog pages. If you have a video that explains it also, there's people who would rather watch a video than read. And it also helps you with your rankings on YouTube of that video. And so you might as well put it on there. The problem is, as soon as you do that, you got to load a bunch of JavaScript. You got to load all the code. You've got to load a player. You've got to load all kinds of stuff that just takes about 1.5 to 2 seconds, depending on the speed load of your page. That means your entire page takes an extra 2 seconds to load, which when I said, it's going to take 5 seconds to load, a lot of people are gone. 2 seconds of that can be eliminated just by changing how your videos load. And so there is this program called Lazy Load for Videos. What this program does is it replaces the video. So before I had, here's a blog post, and over here I got this YouTube video, and there's a button on it that clicks to play. I click it, it plays it. All right, now what it does is it replaces, same thing. I got the blog post, I got the video, but instead of being the video itself, I have an image of the video with the play button. When I click that play button, it then takes the 2 seconds to go grab all that other information and loads it. And so that the only time that the video actually goes through that extra 2 seconds of loading the video happens when someone actually wants to watch that video. And so that 60, 80, 20, whatever percentage of the people who don't watch that video, they don't have to wait for that 2 seconds for the video stuff to download to their computer. It significantly reduces the amount of time it takes for that page to load. And so, as I said, when you click it, it then loads the video player and shows the video. This works with YouTube and Vimeo, and you can also, there's a bunch of other little nice settings in here. For example, you can add your own pre-roll to other videos. So let's say you're using a YouTube video from your own channel or someone else's channel. You bring it in, you can run your own ad before that video starts to play. So just like you're used to on YouTube where you see ads that run in front of videos, you can run an ad for you in front of somebody else's video or your own video on your own site. Okay. Next, you can do things like hiding annotations. So if you're playing somebody else's video and they've got a link off to their page, you can hide that. You can just check a box and it won't show those annotations, those links to somebody else's page. And it doesn't show, you can choose to not show related videos at the end, which is huge and really important because you don't particularly want somebody else's video showing up in a recommended video at the end of this video that you want people to stay on your page and work with you. Okay? Lazy load for videos. Next is this concept called URL redirection. This is the last one. We're almost done here. URL redirection, really important because here's what ends up happening. Anytime you change a URL, so let's say, for example, you change the title of your blog post. Okay, so you've looked at it, and here's a great example. Somebody may have written the best coffee makers in 2023. And then 2024 happens, they replace 2 of those, and they just take the exact same article, they just change the name to the best coffee makers in 2024, and maybe they put in a couple of different coffee makers in that article. It's still the same article that it was, but you just changed the name because you changed it to the best coffee makers in 2024. Well, what that ends up doing is it orphans the 2023 one. It's not there anymore. If someone goes to that URL, because in WordPress, your title automatically becomes part of the URL. So you change that title, you just change the URL. Many of us don't realize that. And so we've been orphaning pages for years. What happens is you need a program that figures out you just changed the URL for something, and then it automatically changes, it puts what's called a redirect into a certain file on your server that says, hey, if someone comes looking for best coffee makers in 2023, show them best coffee makers in 2024. That's all it's doing, is just doing that. But if you don't have a program that does this, then you have to do it. And it's complex and you make errors. And when you make errors, you create all kinds of problems for yourself. So I don't recommend you making errors. I recommend you just use a program like RankMath. One of the things that RankMath does is that if you make a change to your title, it automatically figures it out and just does the redirect for you. Plus, it also gives you the ability, if you purposefully want to redirect for some reason, which oftentimes happens, it gives you the ability to say, here's the old page, here's the news page, just update my redirects, okay? So RankMath does it. I love the way they do it. By the way, Yoast SEO can also do that too. So I'm not going to recommend to you, though there are some WordPress plugins that are specifically designed just to do the redirects. You don't need it. If you've got RankMath or if you've got Yoast SEO, then they'll do that for you. All right. So I've just finished describing the 6 different plugins. But first off, before we end here, I need to talk about duplication of functions. Because here's what happens. Some of the functions I've discussed here are actually done by several of these programs. So RankMath also does page redirection. WP Rocket also does lazy load of videos. And so you may not need to have all 6 of these programs on your WordPress site. And the general rule is you want as few plugins as possible, because as I said, every plugin that you've got loaded loads some script onto a page. It takes longer time for that page to load because you've got more plugins. So if you can do with 3 plugins what would normally take 6 to do, it's better to do it that way, with one exception. And that is when a specialty program does way better than the all-in-one program. In that case, you'll want to turn off the all-in-one's processing of doing that thing so that the other program can do that for you. For example, image optimization. So though RankMath will optimize images, I like Imagify much better. It does a much, much better job. You know, RankMath does like 60 things. One of those is compressing images. Imagify does one thing. It compresses image. And they do a much better job than RankMath doing those things. And so that's the reason why I recommend that. In the end, I'm going to recommend 3 programs to you, and one of those is a duplicate of the other ones. Okay, I'm almost done. Paid versus free. You may have noticed several times I said you're definitely going to want to use the paid version. But Don, aren't free WordPress plugins just as good? No, generally no, because programmers need food too. And they like pizza, and it's a small price to pay for, $59 for this one, $49 for this one, $59 for this other one. Yeah, that's $150, but that's a small price to pay for better SEO placement, better performance for your website. Wouldn't you pay $150 a year to be able to get huge increase in the traffic to your site? Yeah. So my general rule is to try the free program and then ask myself, does it do the job well? Does it conflict with any of the other plugins that I have? Because sometimes that happens. A poorly written plugin will make it so all of a sudden your site doesn't work because it's conflicting with another plugin you already have on your site. Whenever that happens, it's a nightmare. You got to go start turning plugins off until you figure out what it is that's causing it. That's the reason I never recommend adding more than one plugin at once. Add one, test everything, make sure everything's working. Add the second, test everything. That way, if you've got some kind of conflict, and by the way, the programs that I've recommended here are all pretty solid programs. They're not the cheap things that have been done by some high school student trying to make some extra money. These are really solid programs, and so you probably won't have any of those conflicts, but it could happen, especially if you've got something that was specially designed just for you, which I also don't recommend. Okay, so does it conflict? Does it shut down my site? And does it look... Excuse me. Does it look like the paid upgrade will add real value? If so, then I upgrade. And I probably pay for my websites, I don't know, $200 a year, something like that for my different plugins in combination, maybe $250 or $300. Again, small price to pay for the results that come out of it. I told you to wait. I give you my recommendation for the 3 SEO plugins that I recommend. After all this, here's what I recommend. Number 1, I recommend Rank Math Pro for your SEO. I recommend WP Rocket to speed up your site. And though Rank Math Pro does compress images, I recommend Imagify for your image processing. And then I also recommend that you test Rabbit Loader, because as I said, the jury's still out on this one, whether it's better than WP Rocket or not. WP Rocket does more stuff, but Rabbit Loader, it's looking an awful lot like they do a better job at the things that they do. And so I strongly suggest you test both of those. Okay. And if you do this, you say, but Don, you showed us like 5 different areas. What about the other areas? But if you do this, because of that overlap that I talked about, you don't need lazy load, because that's done by WP Rocket. You don't need redirection because that's done by Rank Math Pro. Well, Don, why'd you show us those things? Well, because some of you may choose not to use one of those programs, and so you'll need to have a program that does that function. That's why I showed it to you. Ideally, can't promise anything, but ideally, if you do this right, and you pay careful attention to the SEO work that you're doing, what'll end up happening is you'll get better content, which will then rank higher in the search engines. You'll have faster page loads so that you will rank higher in the search engines, which will give you more traffic, and as a result, more sales. And isn't that what we're after in the first place? There are few places like SEO where I can say there's a direct correlation between doing this and getting more sales. You do SEO right, you're going to get more traffic, and that traffic is probably going to turn into more sales. This is a straight line connection. There's no in between other things that have to work right. You do this right, it'll improve your business. I'm confident of that. What's your thoughts? Do you like any others? Comparison to these? Let me know in the comments. This is Don Crowther saying, just go do this stuff.